Season 19 of Master Duel is here, and with it is the new ban list, which has EMPEN at 1, but also Branded Fusion at 2, and Sulik at 1 as well. Well, that's relevant because right now we're going up against a branded Tearlaments deck that likely has Bystials in it as well. Going second, our opening hand is kind of bricked. The opponent here reveals that they are on the Gimmick Puppet Shenanigans, aka Gimmick Puppet Lock. That is very, very powerful. It shuts down basically any deck that you go up against except for Stun and Floowandereeze. And if this becomes more meta, well, Floowandereeze may not be that bad after all. Now, don't get me wrong, in my previous videos I'm making it kind of seem like Floowandereeze is not a good deck. It's still a good deck and it still can be played. It's just that you do lose a lot of your very powerful interruptions with the additional summon of the second EMPEN and a lot of your more complicated plays that you can pull off with that second EMPEN. But if we take a look at what the opponent did here, so off Branded Fusion, they've sent Tragedy and Albaz. The Tragedy searched for an Aluber. The summon of Aluber grabbed them the Branded Expulsion, because they already had Branded Fusion. And then they were able to, off Lubellion, pitch the Gimmick Puppet, which they hard drew. So this is like ideal opening combo for them because they have every piece that they need without overextending too much. But the problem is this expulsion combo takes a lot of your resources to pull off as the branded player. And yes, it's pretty much a guaranteed win because you shut down your opponent's entire turn with the Gimmick Puppet. For those of you that don't know, the branded expulsion will special summon this Gimmick Puppet to my side of the field, and it locks me out of any special summons except for Gimmick Puppet monsters. So if I'm playing any other deck that special summons, I'm screwed. I can't summon anything, right? But I normal summon in Floowandereeze, so it's totally okay. We don't know what their last mystery card is in hand, but we know they have an Expulsion, and we know they have a Branded in red. And then they've used their Mirror Jade obviously to banish their own Aluber so that they can send the Albion, which gets them the Branded in red during the end phase. So this Branded in red is really the only major interruption that we have to worry about, and potentially like an Imperm or something that's set over here that we have to worry about as well. So sure enough, during the draw phase of our turn, they're going to Expulsion, thinking that they got this game in the bag because Gimmick Puppet triggers and it's a lingering effect, so you can't even do anything to stop it. The only thing you can do is banish the target in the graveyard before the expulsion resolves, like with a Called By or a Bystial or something, and that prevents the Gimmick Puppet from being summoned to your field. But if this is in the banish pile already, there's nothing you can do. Like, you can't Called By it, you can't Bystial it, it's going to resolve, hit your side of the field, and then you can't special summon regardless. So the opponent is going to get follow-up now as well in the Branded Fusion off of the Aluber. So, in a 60 card pile to open one Branded Fusion, the one of Gimmick Puppet, like everything that they need is pretty remarkable. But, our hand will likely get unbricked with the Extravagance and the Duality here. So we draw 2. Sure enough, we draw the one of Map, so that's really good. We're now going to activate the Duality, reveal Unexplored Winds, Dimensional Fissure, and Ryza. And you might think, Quantum, why did you take Ryza here and not Dimensional Fissure? Because that would just get you all your power spells and set up, and you're good to go. Well, if you look at the board, like I said, this Branded in red is the only major interruption I technically have to worry about. And I need to out this card. If I activate Map and they chain Branded in red, right, they target the Tragedy, use Tragedy, the Aluber, and assuming their mystery card is a monster in hand, they bring out Guardian Chimera, they pop my Map as soon as it's activated, then my hand is bricked again, right, because I just have a Stree that I can't really use with. I guess I could use Stree and Unexplored Winds to out something, but it's a much weaker engine than keeping the Map for the follow-up during the next couple of turns. Instead of having it go to graveyard and trying to recycle it, it would be, which I would need to hard draw a Toucan or search Toucan off Robina, which means I have to hard draw a Robina. So yeah, it's just way too complicated. It's much easier just to take this Ryza and then activate Unexplored Winds. The opponent is still opting not to trigger their Branded in red. And then so now priority passes back to me. I'm free to tribute summon using the face down card that the opponent has, the Branded in red, and the Gimmick Puppet that they gave me. So thank you, opponent, for giving me that free tribute material. And go into Ryza. Now, because I use Unexplored Winds to summon the Ryza, I will not be able to bounce Ryza back to hand. All I'll be able to do is trigger the effects to return to the deck. And the opponent reveals their last card in hand is indeed a monster. It was Havness. So could you imagine if they Branded in red and were able to resolve against my Map? I would have probably lost this game, right? So the Havness is going to trigger, and I'm like, okay, all I need to do is hope that they don't hit. And again, the 60 card version of Branded Tearlaments is more inconsistent, and sure enough, they hit Regained, they hit Meta Noise, and Bystial Lubellion. So the Lubellion is a decent hit. The Meta Noise has nothing to target, so it doesn't really matter. But off the summon of the Havness here, they are going to trigger the Scream, which will reveal that their face down card was a Called by the Grave. Their Despian Tragedy gets remilled into the graveyard that was put back to the top of their deck here. And so once again, they hit nothing off of those, like I guess 6 total mills here, right? So we are good to go. The Tragedy will activate, sure, and get them another Aluber here. So they've got Branded Fusion and they've got Aluber, but again, they've already used a Branded Fusion and they have one in hand. So the Aluber is likely going to search a Branded Loss or something. We're now going to go ahead and activate Map. Now that we've played through all the opponent's interruptions, we know everything that they have. Map, Banish, Robina, and then summon Stree. Banish the Tragedy to prevent it from being banished during the opponent's turn and giving them follow-up. I could have probably tried to banish the Lubellion in case they drew into a Bystial, but I guess it's not that risky because they bring back Lubellion, get Branded Beast, then end phase get regained, but I would interrupt them anyways, so I was pretty much safe from that. We're going to go ahead and go regular rotation, grab our EMPEN. EMPEN, of course, is going to grab Trap card. And you notice I did not use Unexplored Winds for EMPEN in this scenario because I'm just going to beat over these 2 cards anyways. I don't want to trigger a Havness Fusion. I don't want to trigger them searching for a Sullic or a Crime. So I'm fine leaving the Scream on board. I'm going to beat over these anyways. There's no point in tributing over this Aluber. Like 200 attack Stree, that's all I'm going to get, an extra 200 damage. So I might as well just attack into it. I'd much rather have my Robina in the Banish pile so that I can chain block it with Eaglin in case they play Ash and they draw Ash for turn, right? So, of course, we grab Trap, Battle Phase, the 200 attack Stree attacks over the 0 defense Aluber, and then we beat over the Havness and then attack direct. So, main phase 2, we're going to set Book of Moon, set the Dreaming Town, because we obviously don't have to worry about evenly matched. And we know the 2 cards in the opponent's hand. So, they're going to draw main phase 1. They opt to normal summon Aluber first instead of going first action Branded Fusion, which is very interesting because what this means is it's going to trigger my map. But if they didn't do this and they did something else, like if they didn't do Branded Fusion first, I would probably do Dreaming Town to get Apex Avian on field so I can negate the Branded Fusion. Because now all I have to really worry about is their mystery card in hand. But because they normal summon Aluber first, it's going to trigger map, and that's going to allow me to summon my Eaglin, and they search the Theater because, again, Branded Fusion at 2. Eaglin is going to grab the Apex Avian, and of course we've chain blocked it with the Robina. Now we use Unexplored Winds, tributing off the Stree and the opponent's Aluber for an Apex Avian, which will negate the Branded Fusion because we know the cards in their hand here. They activate the Theater, and if they try to activate Branded Fusion, we negate it with Apex Avian. They can't use Theater because their mystery card in hand here might, even if it is a monster, they don't have the second material in order to fuse with the Theater, and all they're left with is a Dead Scream. So at most, all the opponent could also have drawn is like a relevant Tearlament card, which would have triggered the Scream to mill 3. And that would be the only thing that could really interrupt us. But even if they did that and was able to fusion summon Kikalos, we would just Book of Moon the Kikalos or just go into Dreaming Town because we'd have Apex back in hand. We can summon Robina off of it, bring Apex back to field, and we completely locked up that opponent still. So Floowandereeze still doing the control aspect stuff out here and still able to be functioning because the opponent was overcommitting to that Gimmick Puppet lock, which didn't do anything against us.